So, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. I have an amazing Gus here this week, so I'm just going to jump straight in and let Gus introduce himself, and then we'll jump into the Q&A session. So, Gus, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Anita. My name is Gus Bhandal. I call myself the UK's number one LinkedIn trainer, and I always say that's according to my mum. But essentially, I help service sector businesses with LinkedIn training. So that's either business owners, executives, or teams. And basically, just it's all about getting more inbound leads.
Brilliant. So, LinkedIn is a social media platform that's really starting to get traction nowadays, isn't it? So, we'll
Mm.
talk about how you're using that and video in a second. So we always start off with this question about, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and actually start your own business? Were you in corporate before? What were you doing to get you to where you are at the moment?
Sure. Yes, I was in corporate before. So what the real catalyst for me to become an entrepreneur was actually I ran a pub for a little while.
Mm.
So long story short, I did a marketing degree. I did some postgraduate marketing qualifications. I went into a corporate career. I worked for some of the world's largest companies. I worked for local authorities. I worked for in like various sectors, etc. And then eventually, I kind of left that all behind because I got the chance to take on my local pub.
Mm.
And it was, to be honest, it was a massive headache, to be honest. But without marketing, without social media, I wouldn't be able to get bombs on seats. It's as simple as that. So one of the catalysts was because I was trying to do everything as a business owner. You have so many things to worry about, so
Mm.
many hats that you have to wear. And on top of that, I was doing the marketing because I knew the pub was only ever going to be a short time. I thought actually I'm going to start a marketing agency where I help other businesses with that. So I take that hat from them, kind of
Oh,
thing.
right.
So they can still manage their business and I manage their marketing in the same way you would outsource accountancy or HR
Mm.
or anything like that. So that's where it was born. Actually, I thought that's it's an idea for others. And actually, my first ever client was my competitor at the pub. So it was like a fellow
Oh.
pub and restaurant kind of up the road, and they said, "Oh, your social media is great." And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And obviously when I left the pub, I said, "Just so you know, I do it, and now I'm doing it as a service." And they said, "Great, we want to take you on." So yeah, that's where it all started. Really.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, whether you were doing it for other like public pubs and restaurants and things, but working in that field, you must sort of like see where the opportunities lie and where things are, lacking, and how you can sort of like change things. So
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that's kind of where it started. And as kind of time went on, as I met more and more, so I now usually only deal with service sector businesses. So
right.
product-based businesses have a whole completely different kind of marketing plan. So when
Yeah.
it comes to service industry, so kind of so retail, hospitality, accountants, HR,
Mm.
wealth managers, photographers, that kind of stuff. That's the marketing that I deal with now. So but again, it's if you're experienced enough and you put yourself in those situations, then obviously you can help others from a
Yeah.
point of experience, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's really interesting. So, how are you using video then? Because obviously, the whole aim for this podcast, for those listening, is to really help you become more confident with video and actually step into video and YouTube specifically. But video is, one of the most sort of like pushed, I suppose, ways of people showing up, that people are told, you've got to be on video, you've got to be on video, you've got to be on video. So, how are you currently using video, and sort of like how's that going with you at the moment?
That's a great question because I'm a typical kind of do as I say, not as I do marketer, and I tell everybody, yes, you should be on video. The problem is I don't be on video enough myself,
Hmm.
and the thing, so having said that, this year I am more on video, and so with the advent of channels like TikTok and obviously
Hmm.
with Instagram Reels coming along, etc., video is so much easier. It's really like the kind of in-house on-platform video editors are so good. It's great to create videos on there. It's really good to kind of share content, whether your face is on video or not. What I normally find is when I post videos that do have my face on it, they get more engagement, and obviously, people interact more, etc. Now, over the last 2 years or so, I've been doing more and more speaking gigs, and from there so every time I apply for like bigger speaking gigs, they can say,
Hmm.
"Oh, we don't. Yeah, can you send us a speaker reel or can you send us a video of you speaking?" And I kind of say, "Yeah, I don't have any videos." So kind of the middle of last year, I got a videographer on board and I said, "Right, I
Hmm.
want you to, film my talks essentially." So now I use videos in kind of two ways: A, to kind of promote the talks that I do, and B, to actually send kind of speaker videos, like obviously of me speaking, to kind of bigger kind of conferences and events, etc., where I want to speak. So, and I know we're going to be talking about YouTube in a moment, but that's kind of, the focus in 2024 for me. The focus is on YouTube.
Right, brilliant. So you were saying that so when you get those videos, so you actually get a videographer to come with you to the actual conference and get them to specifically video you speaking, which is, I think, is actually a really good idea, because like you say, when you apply for things like this, you don't necessarily have that content if people ask for it. Because I know I spoke this year at a conference in Ireland, and that's my first proper public big sort of like conference, and I applied for another talk and they asked me for a video, and I thought, well, I don't have one. So so this time when we went to this one, I was like, are you videoing it? She went, yeah, actually we are. And I was like, okay, I'd like to have a copy of it if possible. And they were like, yeah, sure. So I think that's a really good idea to sort of like get that in the bag. So are you doing, when you're trying it out, are you doing sort of short videos on the other platforms like Instagram and TikTok and things like that, or are you just trying sort of a variety?
Yeah, it's a variety. So one of the this is strange, because obviously even as a LinkedIn trainer, I encourage other people to put videos on LinkedIn, for example. And what I normally do is I create videos in either Instagram Reels or TikTok, and then and essentially download them and post them onto LinkedIn, because I see that they actually get a lot of traction rather than the how can I explain it? So basically, with social media, the short videos are very much kind of like the behind the scenes content. It's very much like, here's an unpolished video of either me speaking or me on my way to a speaking gig, or something along those lines, kind of. And because I create them on social media, on like Reels or TikTok, and then upload them to LinkedIn, they actually do really well on LinkedIn. And I think it's because it's that engagement piece, rather than a fully polished, kind of like, cinematographic kind of video. I think they get a lot of traction on social media. And obviously, like I said, the YouTube channel is for the longer videos where people really want to watch kind of, a 30-minute video of me talking. But the social media is where I get the interaction from the short behind the scenes content.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that leads us really nicely to the YouTube, because I've just got your YouTube channel up, so we can see that on the screen for those of us that are watching this on YouTube as well. But so you've got a YouTube channel, you just launched it this year and taking it more seriously. So what sort of content are you going to be putting on there?
So I'm hoping to use it as a perhaps a speaker reel. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but basically I want to put all my speaking gigs on there. So whether it's kind of long videos or short videos, I want it to be kind of almost like a repository. Is that the right word? So somewhere where I put all my speaking gigs, basically, where they're kind of all in one place. If that makes
like
sense.
like a video portfolio, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah, because obviously with social media, it's so disparate in terms of like the content that we put out there. We can put out a whole range of content, and obviously the things get missed kind of in between. Whereas I want YouTube to be just that. The That's not to say that's going to be the focus forever. I've always had this idea of maybe starting a kind of a podcast, and obviously having that videoed and put it on kind of YouTube as well, or putting out kind of short pieces of content where I give people kind of like LinkedIn tips or something like that, etc. But currently, I want it to be a kind of a video portfolio of my speaking gigs. So that's kind of the focus at the moment, and particularly, I mean, for want of a better phrase, I'm spending an absolute shed load of money on getting a videographer to follow me around. So that's I got to put those videos somewhere, right?
Yeah, and the best place to do it is actually on YouTube, because you
I
get that
agree. Yeah,
public, search engine optimization from it, because it is public and it will get pulled into Google as well. So you are putting it in the right place. And it's great that you're using YouTube, because a lot of people would have probably perhaps put those videos onto Vimeo or something, and then they're always behind a firewall, and then they send the link to somebody and then it never gets actually seen. But what's happening with your videos is that they're actually being seen and indexed by YouTube, so they'll be pulled over. I suppose and we can get to like a little question from you about the videos and things like that. But so when you're putting it on your channel as a sort of portfolio almost, so when you apply for speaking gigs outside of your local area, or whichever ones they are, you're going to be sending them to your YouTube channel to actually see you in action. And which
Yeah,
is a fantastic use for the channel.
absolutely. I think one of the, particularly with YouTube, because again, as a marketer, I always trot out the cliche when I do, like, social media training or LinkedIn training, etc. I always trot out the cliche that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine
Yeah.
because it's owned by the largest search engine,
Yeah.
by Google. Um, and and because I believe that hype, it's kind of it's one of those things. Like you say, there's plenty of video kind of software out there, like Vimeo and obviously others, etc. But I think YouTube is the most widely used. I did some stats and some demographics recently where I think the average watch time on YouTube is something like, I'm sure you know better than me, but I read it as something like 45 minutes, which was actually the most of all kind of the social media platforms. And knowing that obviously it's searchable and people are hanging out there and people are kind of doing searches on YouTube to find videos, etc. And obviously people searching on LinkedIn, then YouTube videos kind of show up, etc. um I just think it's the perfect place to have such a kind of a video library, as it were.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it is almost like the center where you should start, and everything
Mm.
comes off of that. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that hopefully a lot of people will maybe take away from this
Mm.
episode and also from the podcast, is that having that central place for your videos and everything else can come off of it is great.
Mm.
And the way that YouTube integrates, like you said, if you do a search on LinkedIn, the YouTube videos can come up. If you do a search on Google, it comes up and you can
Mm.
put them onto your website. So there's always that sort of, you're
Yeah.
connecting the dots everywhere so people can see you, and also it's evergreen. So the
Mm.
content will stay there forever and be pulled up forever, a lot more likely than say like TikTok and things, which moves very quickly.
Yeah.
The short
um,
shelves of those sort of just disappear very quickly.
Absolutely. On TikTok and Instagram and other kind of platforms, if it's not a trend, you're going to get lost, basically.
Yeah.
Like, people search for particular things. And I know there's the stat recently that came out that, TikTok is the number one search engine for under 25s and all that kind of stuff. But they're probably not searching for LinkedIn training or something like that kind of. So there is that, and because of the speed and the accessibility of social media, having something like YouTube, which, like you say, is evergreen, is
Mm.
perfect. And I think that it's the demonstrating, like having a place of putting those videos, particularly when I kind of work with clients. If they have blogs, I normally say, with a client yesterday, actually, what I did was I said, what you should do is video you talking about the blog first, or video, like, actually
Mm.
to talk about the blog, and then take the transcript and turn that into a blog, put that in your website, and then obviously embed the video into that. So
Yeah.
you, in essence, you get a double Google hit, right? So people either read it or they watch it, or some people might do both. And it's that accessibility for everybody, like you say, for evergreen content which you can share
Yeah.
in other places.
Yeah. And talking of trends, you were saying about, the different video trends, like the short video, if you're not sort of like trending with a viral piece of content on some of the shorter formed platforms, you
Mm.
tend to get lost. Whereas with YouTube, there's lots of different ways you can show up now. So you mentioned earlier when we were talking about you might start a podcast.
Mm.
YouTube have actually opened it up so you don't even have to have a video version of your podcast anymore to show up on YouTube. You can actually put the
Mm.
RSS feed in now, and it will
Okay.
pull it from whichever audio platform your
Yeah.
podcast is usually there, and it pulls the thumbnail that you have with that episode. Say,
Mm.
like if you've got a podcast on Spotify, it will actually just pull the picture
Mm.
over, and you can actually listen to it on YouTube and YouTube Music. So I think
Okay.
they're really trying to push their YouTube Music as being an audio platform that
Yeah.
people want. I know in my, like, some of my groups on YouTube, they wish that everything was on one, like the
Mm.
YouTube Music and YouTube together, rather than having
Yeah.
multiple platforms. And I think maybe that might be something that possibly could be coming at
Yeah.
some point. But
Absolutely. I think it's really important. I am a guest on a lot of podcasts, and what I've done is I've put them all on essentially on a Spotify playlist, so they're all kind of in one place. And what
mm,
I discovered yesterday is that, and I don't know if this is new, but I've only just noticed it. So on Spotify, under the title of each podcast, it will say video episode, and if you click on that, you go, it goes to
yeah,
a video, for example. And I've never noticed that before. So it's interesting that Spotify are telling people that there's video, but obviously YouTube are telling people that actually you can just listen to audio kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think it's great. Like you say, everybody wants their content in one place. And this is kind of why I chose YouTube, because so for my videos, I want them in one place. But I think all of my videos can stand alone as like without a video, if that makes sense. Like people can
Yeah.
obviously still listen along and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating about the RSS feed and having that
Yeah.
as well.
And I think, like you say, they're all competing with each other, because
Mm.
ultimately the social media platforms that we use for our own visibility are businesses in themselves. So they want to
Yeah.
make money from the services that we use from them.
Mm.
So I think they have to move with the trends and things like that. So
Mm.
so I've got an interesting question, because you're my
Sure.
second male
Mhm.
guest on the podcast. The first one hasn't been aired yet, but it is actually coming up very soon. And as a female video creator, I often find that when I interview other female video creators, that they have more sort of like hang-ups about time constraints, or what they look like, what they sound like. I would just be
Mhm.
really interested to sort of like, from your male perspective, how do you find video, like using video and actually bringing video into your marketing?
That is a fascinating question. Like I I used to be an introvert, and now I tell people I'm an extroverted introvert. And I also, on occasion, love the sound of my own voice, and I love doing speaking gigs, and I love weirdly watching myself back on video. However, I wouldn't sit like, for example, if I did a speaking gig and you videoed it, that would be great. If I sat down and actually spoke to a camera and like and all that kind of stuff, it would take me ages to get around it. I would do loads of takes. I would make sure I look okay. I make sure my bed's made and all that kind of stuff. And it's just by the time I do all that, I just think, oh, I can't be bothered, or I'm too tired, or etc. And then it's about having the right content and uh kind of will anybody watch it and all that kind of stuff. And again, like I said, it's a classic case of do as I say, not as I do. Because I tell all my clients, you should be on video, and then they say, "Well, show us your videos." And I said, "Oh, I don't have any. I don't need to. I'm, etc. I write long form content, that kind of stuff." So, um, yeah, I think it's very easy to say I need to be more confident on video, but I think it's that um, I spend a lot of time procrastinating and
Mm,
worrying about whether or not it's perfect. But what I've discovered is that, particularly on social media, the channels that I use, it's the less polished stuff that gets more engagement. So sometimes I think it's just a case of I need to just suck it up and get on with it, kind of thing. So
yeah, it's more the spontaneous, quick little videos that you just sort of like, before this, while I was waiting for you, I was like, shall I do a quick one for TikTok? Like talking
yeah,
about, I'm about to do a podcast sort of thing.
yeah,
And sometimes those ones where they're just completely, I suppose, spontaneous, because they've got your energy. Because
yeah,
if you're not having to sort of overthink, you're not having to worry, you're not having to sort of, like you say, procrastinate about whether someone's going to watch it, whether the lighting's perfect, whether the audio's perfect. You just think, oh, I'm just going to do it.
yeah.
They tend to have a much higher energy level to them, because
Mm.
you something in you is just saying, right, let's just do it, and
Like,
then
yeah, and I think it's real life as well, because I think a lot of and I've watched this back, and I know I do this because when I create videos where I've really sat down and I've got a script and I'm talking about a particular thing and I just need to get to the end and all that kind of stuff, I started to enunciate better, and I start to kind of I start talking in the Queen's English and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, that's not me, right? So it's one of
mm,
those things where it's almost like I automatically do that to try and get my point across. But then when it's like things like this where we're just chatting, we just chat normally, and I think
yeah,
that's and that shows the real life. So when it's spontaneous, when you just kind of get out there and just put something out there, so I think that's a good point. I think actually going forward, I probably need to be a bit more spontaneous in my videos and actually just rather than press the photo button, press the video button and just
yeah,
get it done, kind of thing. If you know what I mean.
yeah.
Um,
I find, like you say, that if you just press it and do it and go with it, they
mm,
tend to be the ones. And before we go to the final question about, looking at your channel and whether there's anything you want to ask me,
mm,
with sort of like doing video and doing that whole spontaneous thing and doing everything sort of like off the hoof, those types of short form videos I sort of see more as like you said earlier, like they're the sort of like visibility magic. They're the ones that
mm,
just sort of go out there and then they get seen, and then you come back for the longer form videos.
mm.
So you've got longer videos on your channel at
Yeah.
the moment. So have you thought about using any sort of like AI software to sort of cut those up? Are you aware of anything like that?
I'm not, no, and that's the thing. I think I need to start looking into things like that, and it's to be honest, when it comes to YouTube, I have like a million questions because obviously I'm comparatively new to YouTube. I've always done it for kind of clients, but it's just like literally just upload videos, add an SRT file, and it's nice and easy.
Yeah,
Um, and there's I have questions about audience growth, I have questions about playlists, I have questions about kind of subtitle. The other day, so I uploaded a video the other day and it didn't have subtitles, so I was like, oh, I'll just add subtitles, and I was typing it out. It literally took me like 3 days for a 20-minute video just to do the subtitles, and I thought there's got to be an easier way, and I didn't know. I couldn't, for
yeah,
the life of me, I couldn't work it out. And again, particularly with AI tools and kind of splicing it up, because I think that's the I see other agencies and marketing agencies do this. They kind of create long form content
yeah,
and then they split it up for Reels and
yeah,
TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not it's not something I understand or can get my
yeah.
head around, basically. So yeah.
Yeah. So I use a tool called Opus Pro, and
Hmm.
that's just one that I came across, and it's AI driven. So I can show you some examples while we're looking at your channel. And what you can do is you can either put the link from your video that you've already got on your channel into Opus, and
Hmm.
the AI cuts up your videos and puts the graphics on and puts the subtitles on for you,
Right.
and it gives you like a title that it ranks
Mm.
how good the video might be in search, etc., whether it might go viral or whatever. But
Yeah.
I tend to look at each of the ones that it gives me, and then it will just sort of like you just choose the ones you think would resonate more with your audience. They connect with you
Mm.
better. So I've got your YouTube channel up. For those of you that are listening to this, if you hop over to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to see Gus's YouTube channel up on the screen as well. So talk to me about your channel. How do you feel that it's set up at the moment, and what sort of like ask me one of the most sort of burning questions you'd probably want to ask me that we can sort of go through in this podcast. What would you like to sort of like, how do you feel your channel's working at the moment?
I think the burning question is, and this happens, and basically it's a question that my clients will always ask me. So I'm gonna ask you because I don't know the answer. Is how do I build that audience up? Like, because obviously I've published it and I've put stuff on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and obviously I have to start promoting it in other places and all that kind of stuff. But is there a specific way? Like, is there like captions, hashtags, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Like in terms of searchability, in terms of people finding that and building an audience, is there any not
Tricks.
necessarily hacks, but yeah, tips and tricks, basically?
Yeah. Okay. So what I often say is that when you've done a video, if you've done the video already, when you go to put the video up, don't put the title that you think it should have for a start. Put the title as if you're your audience. So, what would your audience be searching for if they were on Google or on YouTube to find a video that has the content that you've just produced? That
Hmm.
would be one of the key things I would say, because what happens is that we tend to, as creators, already have an idea of what our video is about, and we tend to put the title as that particular idea.
Hmm.
But what we forget is that people who are looking for that content may be looking for it in a different way.
Yeah.
So, for example, on your channel, you've got a video you've got quite long videos, but say like you've got streamline your social media for superstardom.
Hmm.
Now, that's obviously a recording of a talk that you did.
Hmm.
So what was the talk about?
The talk was about being efficient and effective on social media. So actually not killing yourself and being on every single channel. And actually you make a good point about that because so there's another video on there which I've got which is all about LinkedIn employee advocacy. It's very unlikely people are going to search for LinkedIn employee advocacy. They might say, how do I get my team better on LinkedIn, for example?
Yeah, so you've
Uh,
got that. Yeah, it
so
says employee
yeah,
advocacy for B2B brands on LinkedIn.
yeah, so that's the title of the talk itself, and actually maybe that should be better in the caption, and the title should be something like what people would be searching for. And I know because obviously, if you go to websites like answerthepublic.com, for example, and you type in kind of stuff in there, you get loads of questions of what people are asking for. And I think it is literally so I could go in there and type in LinkedIn employee advocacy, and then it give me loads of questions about that. So I think That's a really good point, actually. What are customers asking for, or what are what's an audience asking for, as opposed to what is the title of what your talk is? I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, so that would be my first thing about the titles, because the titles are really important when somebody searches for a video on YouTube. That's
Hmm,
probably the most important part of the keyword search.
hmm.
So when somebody types in, like, so your video on LinkedIn was to sort of, was that to encourage other employees to go on to boost the
Yeah,
company's?
it was for, yeah, it was basically for company owners
Yeah.
to encourage their teams to use LinkedIn more,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So almost what you just said then is would make up a title. So what you
Yeah.
would do is that you would work out the title. And I actually use a tool for this. Now, there are lots of different tools that can help you, but I use one called TubeBuddy. But there are other
Yeah.
ones out there like vidIQ, and there's another one called TubeSpanner, which I'm actually just starting to use at the moment. And they're all driven using sort of like AI, and also obviously whatever the company puts into them for keyword, they have their own sort of like behind the scenes thing.
Hmm.
And best practice that I do on my channel is, once I've sort of identified the title, I would then use that title in the first paragraph of the description. So you'd have to have a description, because what happens when the video is indexed by YouTube is it looks at the description of the video as well. So
Hmm.
having some of the keywords that you've spoken about in your content in the description will also help it come up into search. So when someone's typing in, how do I get my uh, how do I get my team to show up on LinkedIn as my business advocate, or something like that, you would have that entwined into the description of your video as well. And you'd probably speak about why having a team member would be important to your business if you have your team speaking up about your business on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
You'd entwine that, and you can have up to off the top of my head, a couple of thousand characters in the
Wow.
description.
Okay.
So you can have a fair bit of description,
Hmm.
and it's more there for the indexing of your video rather than for people to read. It's there for, it needs to make sense as if someone would
Hmm.
read it, but it's actually there more to help with keyword research, so that it's
Yeah.
being pulled up when people are searching.
That's a good point, because I think what I do currently, or what I have done currently, is because I send it to organizers of conferences, it's very descriptive in terms of,
Mm.
this is a talk I delivered on this date at this event, or
Hmm.
and etc. But actually, that's great for the event organizer, but it's rubbish for the audience because they couldn't care less. And actually, I think it's probably adding a paragraph to say, well, this is what the talk is about, and and again, adding
Yeah.
those keywords, what people are searching for, as opposed to what I think it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, and lead with
So
that, because lead with the content, because ultimately what the channel's going to do for you is it's going to raise brand awareness for your business.
yeah.
Yes, at the moment you're using it as a portfolio for your talking and things like that, for you to be able to get more talking gigs. But actually, the talks that you've delivered have really good content in there for
Hmm.
the audience that was at that event. So if you look at the audience that was at that event, all of those people could be potential clients for you. So
Yeah.
they would get value from the content of the talk. And if you're putting the talk up onto YouTube, the best thing to do is to optimize it for the audience that you would want it to be delivered to,
Hmm.
so that they get the value from it, and then they'll
Yeah.
see you as that person to go to get that work from. And then the speaker role part, when you are explaining or sending your potential conference host the information, you can tell them about what the video is about and things like that in the email or the application, and they're going to the video to actually see how you perform more
Hmm.
than what the content's about. So
Yeah.
you'll get two for one in a way. You're going to get
Hmm.
the visibility and the credibility
Hmm.
from your audience, and then you're also going to get that level of, yeah, that person's really good on stage, so we want them at
Yeah.
our conference, sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I think particularly when it comes to the audience, they'll want to know what the video is about. They couldn't care less where it was, or
No,
what date it was, or they want to know, like, if we're gonna sit down and watch this half an hour video, what's the video about? Like, we don't want to sit through half an hour and get to the end and think, God, that was rubbish, or that's not what I wanted to learn, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in that, and you know what? Well, obviously, when you say it out loud, and this is what I tell my clients all the time, it sounds ridiculously obvious, right? But it's not. It's not. Like I said, because I'm quite new to YouTube, it's not something that I've thought about.
No, and it's something
Yeah.
that people do all the time. And that's
Mm,
the thing, is that because we look at YouTube and we see, all these videos that have got millions of views and things like that, and we often compare ourselves to them when we even start, and then, well, they've got this title, so you know I clicked on that video, so that must be what it works. But
yeah.
actually, when we look at using it for ourselves, it's a completely different strategy from when
Mm,
we're watching on our own,
yeah.
sort of thing, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I would
Absolutely.
say changing your titles of the 4 videos that you've got on your channel would
Mm,
instantly bring those videos into the arena of those people that are searching for the content that you spoke about.
yeah.
I think that would be really, really important. And
That's really
then
yeah.
there's obviously things that you can do in the background of your title, of your channel, that
Mm,
would help it be indexed more. So, for example, on the front of your channel page, there's a bit where you can have more about your channel. There's like a whole about section, a bit like on LinkedIn, you have the about bio
oh,
section. You can
I
put
didn't.
that onto your LinkedIn channel, so that's indexed
I didn't
by
know that.
by search as well. Um, and
Awesome.
there's opportunities for you to have links on there. So if you do want members of the public who are watching your content to contact you off of YouTube, there's
Mm,
opportunities there for you to put links. And then also,
mm,
if someone stumbles across your talk and thinks, oh, I'd like him at my conference, there's also
yeah.
opportunities for you to put contact information on there and things like that. So
Excellent.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's really good.
No.
Any
Thank
other
you. Thank you so
questions,
much.
just sort of off the
I mean,
top of your head?
I'm sure I have a million kind of follow-up questions, but no, I think that's brilliant. I think particularly for someone with a new channel like me, I think that's the thing. It's all very well kind of placing content and all that kind of stuff, but actually, and although there was a purpose to that content, what I have to think about is actually what do the audience want and what will they be searching and all that kind of stuff, which obviously applies to all social
Yeah,
media channels. It's not about what you want to tell people; it's about what people want to hear,
yeah,
which are often not not the same thing.
yeah.
So no, that's been a massive help actually. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And it's been really, really good talking to you, because it's really
Likewise.
interesting to see, especially from a agency point of view, how
Mm,
you're using YouTube yourself, but also
yeah.
how you're sort of asking your clients to use
Mm,
video and things like that, which is really good. So tell
yeah.
everybody who is listening or watching how they can actually connect with you. Where's the best place to sort of like follow your updates and things at the moment?
So currently, other than YouTube, I think
Yep.
so everybody can find me on LinkedIn. So it's if you just search for Gus Bhandal, people can find me. My hashtag and my suffix, so my ad handle is mguru UK. And
Mhm.
literally, if you go to Google and type in mguru UK, you'll find like the first 10 pages are about me. But LinkedIn is where I do my best work. So
Okay, brilliant. And I will put all of your details underneath this video on YouTube and also on the audio versions as well. So people will be able to
that
reach
would be
out
great.
to you. So thank you so
Excellent.
much for joining me today. And
Thank you for
it's
having me.
been a brilliant conversation.
Yeah, loved it. Thank you so much, Anita.
No worries.